Okay, have we started?
No, give me one more minute. So I was making sure the recording started. So good afternoon. I'm Sharon. There we go. I'm Sharon Welker, and I welcome you to the concurrent session on Field Guide of North Carolina. In this session, we'll have two presenters, Allison and Kristin, along with their mentors, Jessica Kelley and Ian Brown, who are supporting them. We'll begin with Allison. She'll introduce herself and lead through her presentation with question and answers, and then we'll move to Kristin. So we'll mute our microphones. And if y'all would, we do have several people here, which is wonderful. So after the presentation, please use the raise hand feature. And also you can put questions in the meeting chat. And Dr. Sujatha or I will help field those questions to our presenters. And as I mentioned, after about 8 minutes or so, I might raise my hand, or 9 minutes when we're getting close to the end, just so you can know that the time is slowing down. So, all right, so I think we are now ready. So I'm going to mute my camera. Kristin, you and I might want to mute and then let Allison present for us. Thank you so much.
Okay, mute my screen moved on here. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison Przytulski. First, I'd like to thank you all for coming and watching. This semester, I worked on the geology field guide with Dr. Jessica Kelley and Mr. Ian Brown, as well as 5 of my classmates. We used Google Earth and many other online resources to find and map geological sites of paleontological significance for geology students here at Wake Tech to give them experience with real-world sites through online resources. Each of the 5 of us worked to find 10 sites that contain significant finds dated to one era from the geological timescale. I chose the late Paleozoic, pictured circled here in yellow, which is split into the Carboniferous and Permian periods, and the Carboniferous is split further into the Mississippian and Pennsylvanian periods. This is just a quick snapshot of the Google Earth tour that I created for the late Paleozoic. It includes 10 sites. They all start up here in Nova Scotia at the Cumberland Basin at the Joggins Fossil Cliffs. Moved down into Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Morris, Illinois, Missouri, and then the tour will cut over to Montana, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, and ends right here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where at 8 feet long, the longest nautiloid fossil to have ever been found was found in a culvert next to I-540 in a town called Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Carboniferous period is a time in Earth's history that was marked by the coal swamps, which give it its name. These were forests of seedless vascular plants that existed throughout Europe and North America, which provided the material that eventually became the coal we now mine. This was able to happen because the atmosphere had considerably more oxygen than it does today. And so what would happen is these trees and plants or animals would die and fall in these tropical swamps and remain where they fell. They didn't decompose the way we would expect them to today, so eventually all of this dead material layered up into thick enough layers that would become peat and eventually turn into coal. The Permian period is pretty recognizable to most people as a time period when the continents of the world were amassed into Pangaea, the supercontinent which formed during the collision of Euramerica and Gondwana during the Carboniferous period. I would love to be able to take you on a tour of all 10 sites in my geology field guide today, but for right now, we're just going to touch on the Bear Gulch Limestone Lagerstatt in Montana, Capitan Reef in the Guadalupe Mountains in Texas, and the Lepidodendron of the Henrietta Coal in Oklahoma. So the first stop at Bear Gulch Limestone is in Fergus County, Montana. This is the Bear Gulch Limestone is a Supercovian conservation lagerstadt, and Supercovian is in reference to a time frame within the geologic timescale. It's part of the late Mississippian period. And a conservation Lagerstadt or Conservat Lagerstadt translates from German as conservation storage place. These are sedimentary deposits that include exceptionally well-preserved fossils, usually also including soft tissue as well as a hard bone. The fossils that are usually found here at the Bear Gulch Limestone include a large and diverse collection of vertebrate and invertebrate fossils, including 130 species of fish not previously known to science before they were found here. The fossils themselves range from small pieces of skeletal remains to entire bodies with fossilized skin, pigmented outlines of blood vessels, and internal organs, as well as they even found fine traces of soft tissue. The preservation in this area is generally attributed to an anoxic environment believed to have existed at the time. And the image you see here is a fossil, an Echinochimera meltoni. This one is believed to have been a female, and thanks to this exceptional preservation, they can tell that she had she has a spine here just in front of her dorsal fin, which may have been poisonous. These are early predecessors to today's ghost fish. Our next stop is going to be in Texas at the Capitan Reef in the Guadalupe Mountains. This is an extremely well-preserved fossil reef, which originally developed in the rim of the Delaware Basin about 260 million years ago, when the outlet that connected the Delaware Basin to the ocean that fed it closed up for some reason. As the water dried, sediment and minerals in the water settled and eventually covered what we call Capitan Reef, so it would not have been accessible to the environment. Then about 80 million years ago, and then again 20 to 30 million years ago, a combination of tectonic shifts allowed a portion of the basin to rise. Weathering and erosion processes took over and revealed Capitan Reef and its many fossils to the world. This area is a visual timeline of ancient history. One of the fossils that are found here are fusilinids. These are single-celled organisms, and these are found among sponges, algae, foreign corals, trilobites, and many different types of fossils found here. This is significant because at 251 million years ago, during the Permian-Triassic event, these single-celled organisms were wiped out. They had previously survived 150 million years ago, 150 million years before the Permian-Triassic event. And this is something that we can see evidence of in the Capitan Reef. Our next stop is going to be at the Lepidodendron of the Henrietta Coal in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. This area is just south of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Lepidodendron is an extinct genus of tall vascular plants that belong to the clade Lycophytes. Lycophytes currently encompass a large collection of plants that generally don't seed, flower, or produce wood or fruit. They are water-loving and believed to have the longest lineage of existing vascular plants. Lepidodendron grew to about, these Lepidodendron that you see rendered here, grew to about 30 meters and lived for about 15 years. They lived and thrived in the coal swamps of the Carboniferous period, and their habitat preferences kept them out of the wettest part of the coal swamps, but they still preferred wet environments. Their fossils can be found throughout the Ouachita Mountains, which stretch from Oklahoma and into central Arkansas. The word Lepidodendron here translates from the Greek words for scale tree, and it's in reference to the diamond pattern impressions in the fossils that are created from the outer bark of these trees. Because like today's birch and shagbark maple, these trees shed an outer bark and then revealed an inner bark, which there are fossils of also, and those are referred to as noria. So I've taken you on a tour of 3 of the sites that geology students will visit on their Google Earth tour of the late Paleozoic. We've visited 2 sites relevant to the Carboniferous period in Oklahoma and in Montana, and then 1 site relevant to the Permian period. I'd like to thank you all very much for your time, for sitting in today and listening. I'd also like to thank my mentors, Dr. Jessica Kelley and Professor Ian Brown, and my fellow students who helped me put this together. So, and at this time, I'd also like to open the floor up to questions if anyone has any.
Well, thank you, Allison. We'll give people time to think about their questions, but that was very interesting. I thought it was great. Fish that not previously known about. How exciting to discover that.
Okay. I'm going to go off camera so that
Okay, well, let's see if anyone in all right, we have a few more seconds if there is anyone who would like to ask a question. Well, thank you. I appreciate being exposed and thinking about your, I wrote it down, Paleozoic period, and just thinking the different sizes and amazing preservation that there is to be discovered. So Allison, and to your mentors, Ian and Jessica, thank you very much. All right.
thank you. I'm going to go off camera now. Bye-bye.
Okay. And so now your colleague researcher, we will turn it over to Kristin for the and appreciate your work. Thank you.
All right, so give me a minute. I'm gonna share my screen and get it all set up. Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm Kristin Matwiczyk. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your time today. I interned on the Geology Field Guide project with mentors Dr. Jessica Kelley and Professor Ian Brown. The purpose of the project was to create a geology field guide in Google Earth of paleontology sites in North America, which included a research paper to describe the fossils and locations. The Google Earth tours are intended as a teaching aid for the historical geology class at Wake Tech, especially to add a little of the real world now that the virtual education is more prevalent. I researched 10 sites for the Cenozoic era, also known as the Age of Mammals, which spans 66 million years ago to right now. The 10 sites are located in the Western United States and Canada. So here's a picture of the map and the pins where all the sites are that I researched. The Cenozoic era begins with the KT extinction event, when the time of the dinosaurs ended and mammals had the opportunity to flourish. The Cenozoic era started warm and tropical until an ice age began, marking the end of the Eocene epoch. So you can see the blue line on the geological timescale shows you when that ice age starts. I will highlight 3 of the 10 Cenozoic sites for this presentation, and those are shown as the red pins on the map. We're going to start in the north with the Eocene epoch. We're going to migrate south to the Miocene epoch, and then we're going to go a little more south and west to the Pleistocene epoch. All right, here we go. First up, the Driftwood Canyon fossil bed in Okanagan Highlands of British Columbia, Canada, where two important mammal fossils, a hedgehog and a tapir, from the early Eocene epoch were found. These are the oldest non-Arctic mammal fossils discovered to date this far north. The tapir is about the size of a medium dog, and the tiny hedgehog is about 2 inches long and are both from about 52 million years ago. These two extinct organisms lived in a lush forest along a lake. The tapir was an herbivore, and the hedgehog ate insects and plants. Eocene lake shales, together with a diverse flora, reveal a cool upland forested landscape during the early Eocene. This was cooler, in fact, than other locations in areas of the Okanagan Highlands. The early Eocene is an important part of the Cenozoic history because it marked the height of global warming and the significant reorganization of the mammalian biota. These discoveries in the diversity of non-Arctic Eocene mammals provide a window into the mammalian community at the time. Next, we're going to the Ashfall fossil beds in north-central Nebraska, which contained an extraordinary terrestrial conservat lagerstätte, which is a fossil cache with exceptional preservation, of Miocene vertebrates in a mass death assemblage. The lagerstätte is composed of 21 fossil taxa representing amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The most numerous and well-known fossil remains at this site are of the barrel-bodied rhinoceros, which is shown in the picture on the slide. The fossils are from the Miocene epoch and are about 12 million years old. Over 100 specimens of rhinoceros have been uncovered in the Tafora deposit, and it is hypothesized that most or all were members of a single social group or herd. Many of the medium to large-sized mammal skeletons are fully articulated and preserved in their original three-dimensional death poses. These animals lived in a warm Nebraska climate at the time and experienced extremely poor air quality after a volcanic eruption suffocated them with volcanic gases and ash particulates. Lastly, we're going to the Ziegler Reservoir fossil site. In 2010 to 11, construction at Ziegler Reservoir near Snowmass Village, Colorado, began in order to supply the village with a source of fresh water. The digging revealed a nearly continuous lake and wetland sedimentary sequence that preserved an enormous and diverse fossil cache. The construction stopped and the scientists came in and discovered the site was an ancient lake that had filled with sediment between 140,000 and 55,000 years ago, which preserved a series of alpine ice age fossil ecosystems, dated late Pleistocene. The Ziegler Reservoir fossil site, which is also sometimes referred to as the Snowmastodon site, contained thousands of well-preserved bones of late Pleistocene megafauna, including mastodons, which are shown in the picture, mammoths, ground sloths, horses, camels, deer, bison, black bear, coyotes, and bighorn sheep. In addition to all of that, the site contained bones from at least 30 species of small animals, including salamanders, otters, muskrats, minks, rabbits, beavers, frogs, lizards, snakes, fish, and birds. The animals found at Ziegler Reservoir roamed the Rocky Mountains during the last interglacial period. They had a very nice view, a freshwater lake, marshlands, and over time, even a meadow. There was a large biodiversity of plants and animals that were able to flourish there. The combination of vertebrates, invertebrates, terrestrial and aquatic plant macrofossils, a detailed pollen record, and a directly dated stratigraph framework shows that high elevation ecosystems in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado are climatically sensitive and vary dramatically over time. And that wraps up my presentation. Here's a list of the references from my research. And I just want to thank everyone so much. Thank you to the students in my group who worked on the other epochs. And thank you so much to Dr. Kelley and Professor Brown. This was a super fun project to work on. Does anyone have any questions?
So again, thank you. We're going to keep letting people have time to think about their questions. I was curious about your ashfall place when you mentioned the death pose. So do you think the volcano, I mean, did they die standing up, or was that what did you mean by that?
Yeah, it seems as if it was the volcano and all of the toxins in the air and other things had caused this mass death of these animals all at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Brown.
Yes. Well, both presentations were very good, and you could see how you can just make a career out of the geosciences and following the trail of what caused these different fossil groups and how they're related and putting them into the right categories. Thank you both so much. So
Geology rocks.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, both the presentations were very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, well, we have a few minutes if anyone else, and I see Dr. Sujatha has put the presentations again, so we can, I think, go back to the original one next, and we'll be hearing some more about the stories of science, and then the conclusion from that one. So ladies, you're very poised and polished, and thank you so much for participating in our first virtual START Student Research Symposium.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.